I'm ready. Have we got some music? There it is. Bum, 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 bum. All right, time for another Moment with Bob, brought to you by your friends at Offshore Drilling and Mountaintop Removal. Tonight's Moment with Bob is entitled Doubling Down on the Crazy. Hey, Mike. A couple of Trump supporters showed up to vote at Nevada's Republican caucus dressed in their KKK sheets and hoods. Yesterday, February 24th, the Iowa House passed a series of gun rights bills allowing children of any age to handle guns. Today, the owner of an insurance agency in Georgia is requiring all of his employees to be armed. Sane people all over the country are now wondering, can somebody please derail the crazy train this shit show arrived on? Last December, Larry Wilmore of The Nightly Show said, quote, "This isn't funny anymore, it's just stupid," end quote. Well, it's 2016 and we're way past stupid. This is seriously crazy now. But this isn't about Trumpenstein or the daily gun slaughter. Billionaires and Fox News created the teabagger wing of the Republican Party. And the Republican elite seemed surprised that the mindless rabble they've inculcated for 20 years with distilled bullshit are choosing bullshit candidates. What the Republican elite forgot, or didn't know in the first place, was once they created a party that gave permission to embrace racism, xenophobia, and misogyny, their minions would vote for the candidate who best embodied those attributes. Duh! And as it has been said many times before, if politicians did nothing to pass sane gun control laws after 20 6- and 7-year-olds were ripped to pieces by semi-automatic fire in their elementary school, then it was excruciatingly clear there would be no meaningful gun control in the United States. Ever. Do you want to keep your kids safe from the gun madness that infects your city, state, and country? Well, fuck you. This isn't about that. Too much has been uselessly written about that. This is about another dangerous, in-your-face crazy the U.S. is exhibiting. In the November 2006 midterm elections, the Republicans lost control of the House and Senate. The elections were seen as a referendum about ending the war in Iraq. But in January 2007, George W. Bush announced he was sending thousands and thousands more troops into Iraq. This was called the Iraq War Troop Surge of 2007, or to be more precise, the big fuck you to everyone who wanted an end to the war in Iraq. The U.S. has an appalling history of doing the exact opposite of what the majority of Americans need and want. When the economy cratered in 2008, we wanted the government to bail out the people. The government bailed out Wall Street and the banks. How much? Well, I found this in the January-February 2010 online issue of Mother Jones. Quote, "The real size of the bailout, the price tag for the Wall Street bailout is often put at $700 billion, the size of the Troubled Assets Relief Program. But TARP is just the tip of the iceberg of money paid out or set aside by the Treasury Department and Federal Reserve. In her book, It Takes a Pillage, Behind the Bailouts, Bonuses, and Backroom Deals from Washington to Wall Street, Naomi Prinz uncovers the hush-hush programs and crunches the hidden numbers to calculate the shocking actual size of the bailout. $14.4 trillion and counting. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 8.8 million jobs have been lost since the start of the 2008 recession. If giving trillions of dollars to the people who caused the economic meltdown, instead of helping the millions and millions of people who lost their jobs and homes, doesn't rank as one great big fuck you to the American people, I don't know what would. That's the institutional fuck youism. And then there's the version practiced by bullies on the playground, brawling in bars, dressed up in white sheets in front of flaming crosses, and now in voting booths. Gene Wilder's character in Blazing Saddles said it best, quote, "You got to remember, these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land, the common clay of the New West. You know, morons," end quote. But in real life, these are the dangerous morons out in force for Trump, Cruz, Rubio, and the rest of the Republican assholes. They don't care they're acting in-your-face crazy, and they don't care who sees it. They're proud of the fact they're going to take their country back and then make it great again, whatever that means. I think it means they're delusional. I think they want the government to pretend that white people will always remain in the majority. I think they want women and all people of color to submit to the white male rule forever. Of course, they're out of their goddamn minds, but there are millions of them. As of today, February 25th, it looks like Trump will win the Republican nomination. I'd like to think Trump will be overwhelmingly stomped in the 2016 election, regardless of whether he's running against Clinton or Sanders. The polling numbers at realclearpolitics.com plainly show those results. So let's imagine a corporatist Democrat or a Democratic Socialist sworn in on Inauguration Day 2017. What happens next? I think we have to go back almost 3 months prior to when the show really started. I think we'll see from election night, November 8th, 2016, to Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2017, the biggest fucking meltdown in modern U.S. history. The combined crazy that's been simmering just under a boil since a black man started living in the White House is going to boil over. As Dick Baby Tartar Eaton Cheney would say, big time. I'm not an optimistic type guy. Some people say the glass is half full, others say the glass is half empty. I'm amazed there's even a fucking glass. I obviously have no idea what's going to happen after the votes are counted on election night. And my imagination has proved time and time again that it is not my best friend, my imagination. But truth seekers, I just can't see millions and millions of unimaginably frustrated and crazed Republican Trumpsters going home and getting back on their meds. I think they're going to take in-your-face crazy to the next level, into the stratosphere. I have no idea what that level even looks like. But I've read a couple of books. In Dominion, an alternate history novel written by C.J. Sansom, one of the characters says, quote, "Given the right circumstances, fascism can infest any country, feeding off the hatreds and nationalisms that already exist. Nobody is safe." End quote. Stephen King wrote Salem's Lot about how vampires took over an entire town. William Shirer wrote The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich and how Nazis took over an entire country. Stephen King's books can be found in any bookstore in the horror fiction aisle. For the life of me, I don't have any idea why there isn't a horror history section. Regards, Bob. Another Moment with Bob, brought to you by your friends at Offshore Drilling and Mountaintop Removal. We have Moments with Bob periodically, as is the wont of the writer himself. Bob can be reached in Canada. What's his website? Is it still Super Beans? It's still superbeans.com. If you want to write to Bob and strike up a conversation, that's the best way to start. And I think you should. You know, I read that piece that Bob sent. I read it earlier today, and thinking back on what a lot of us have said over here in the left-wing desert people like Bob Kincaid or me or some of the more famous people who speak from the liberal desert or the progressive desert or the socialist desert. And I'm thinking about all the words that have been said about how totally insane politically things have gotten in this country. And I was thinking today, it's not just politically. I mean, when you have the Iowa legislature, and keep in mind, Iowa is where every freaking political candidate, every 4 years, they rush to Iowa as though Iowa was the place where you got the best drugs in the world and they're all addicts. And they all get in there and they gin things up and they spend lots of money on television advertising to get these pig shit farmers to go into their stupid ass caucuses and say, well, I'm going to know, how about this one? And they're crazy. And the religious evangelicals practically run the state. So does it come as a surprise to you to find out that a law was passed, was it yesterday, saying that any person of any age has a right to own a gun? 7-year-olds can own a gun. Now, there is only one reason that law was put into effect. Only one. To eliminate liability for the gun manufacturers. If anyone can own a gun, then the next 7, 6, 8, 10-year-old who gets blown away in Iowa, the family will have no recourse against the gun manufacturer. Have you figured that one out yet? I couldn't figure out the other day when I heard about this, yesterday or today, what is that? I mean, Christian evangelicals are the most corrupt, filthy, psychotic group ever to be shit out onto the American landscape. But why would they do that? Because they were told that to do otherwise would infringe on their religious liberty. But the real reason is so gun manufacturers don't have to listen to the sob stories and the bullshit when some parent shows up in court with a lawsuit that says, your gun killed my 7-year-old. And the gun manufacturer can say, fuck off. Our gun didn't do anything. Your kid owned the gun. What? We don't have any liability. It's your kid's gun. This is the kind of madness that we all are stuck in right now. You get that, don't you? You do get that. At a time when we desperately need gun safety laws to protect people and children, these shit farmers in Iowa decide to pass a bill that says anybody in Iowa, regardless of the age, can, and probably says should, own a gun. Here in Georgia, they passed a law. I don't know if our fucked up governor has signed it yet, but they passed a law here in Georgia this past week, the pastor protection law, saying that preachers now can carry guns anytime, any place. They don't even need a permit. And then they also passed a law that said guns are now acceptable on college campuses. They just did that in Texas too, right?